So in this demo, I'm going to be trying to use the Iterative Shader Lab to recreate this blob and on this website that honestly inspired this entire project. So I guess first of all, like looking at this blob, it's metallic. There are ridges on it uh, that move quite a bit and change shape a lot. And I guess in terms of colors, it's mostly like a teal base, but there are a lot of like purple and yellow highlights. So I try to like include that in the process. And then what else could I say? I guess in terms of like the actual like metallicness of the surface, I'd say it's pretty metallic, but there is like a slight bit of matteness to it. So I'll try to capture that as well. So let's get started. So how should I start this? Generate a spherical metallic blob with a black background. The blob should be teal with purple and yellow highlights. Yeah, so I'm just gonna generate the blob itself first, and hopefully try to get some of the colors good, and then I'll try to like work on like the uh, ridges and like the movement. So yeah, here, so like this is like the first iteration of the code. This is probably pulling directly from the training data, like the fine-tuning training data. So hopefully the like the next like auto iterations, well, yeah, there we go, it's already like starting to look a lot better. So hopefully after like this next iteration hit, we'll be able to compile, we'll be able to keep moving on. So yeah, let's see. What's the issue? 53. I can't be compared with, okay. Max steps. It's probably just to set that as a constant. It should be good. So there, okay. So we're given a teal blob and no highlights or anything. It's just a sphere right now. But we can start with this. So let me just start by making it smaller and then trying to make it a bit more metallic. Can you make the blob a bit smaller so that its radius is about 1/3 of the width of the screen? And then can you make the surface a bit more metallic? I mean, also just add a like and shiny just to make sure that it's so that it knows like kind of like exactly what we're talking about. So yeah, so it says that like tried to like do the purple and yellow highlights, but obviously that didn't work out exactly how they expected. So we'll see. We'll keep iterating. Alright, so the sphere is too small now, which is interesting. Honestly, let me just go back to the initial generation, and just try again. I think these instructions shouldn't be that hard to get right, so I'm not gonna try to work with this like messed up version. Okay. So now it's the size of 1, but it's not really metallic, but that's fine, we can work with that. So I guess, can you make the surface more metallic and shiny? And I want to simulate yellow and purple lights around the moving around the blob so that they shine off of the blob. Okay, let's see. So then form highlights. I don't want to. Alright, simulate. You want to that they show off the blob and form yellow and purple highlights. So we'll see if it can do that. Okay, so it does look a bit more. Let me just focus on one thing at a time. Let me just make it more metallic first, and then I'll work on the highlights. Can you just make the surface more metallic, shiny, and specular? Alright, let's see if we can just do that. Let me just look at this for reference again. So I guess it is a bit darker than teal, but that's fine. Yeah, the ridges is definitely gonna be the hardest part, but yeah. Okay, I mean, it looks more like plastic than metal, but it also has like the lights. You can see like the reflection of the lights. So that's actually interesting. Okay. Can you make the yellow and purple lights closer so that they form a bigger highlight on the surface of the blob? Alright. So yeah, let's just move those closer. Hopefully it'll like make more of a difference when we actually start to add the ridges. Oh, they put the lights closer together instead of closer to the blob. Let me fix that. Closer to the blob. There. So I try that. Okay, I mean, this doesn't, okay, I think this is good so far. Maybe we can work on the lighting later. Now I think I want to get into the actual like the movement and like the ridges. So how do I put this? Can you add ridges to the surface of the blob so that are completely let me try that again. Can you add ridges to the surface of the blob that are constantly moving around? Let me add more to that. I want there to be about 10 ridges total on the blob at any time. I want these ridges to be pretty big. Ridges on the blob at any time. I want the movement and transformation of these ridges to be very smooth and complex. Is that the word? One movement and transformation of these ridges to be very smooth and dynamic. Let me try that. Want there to be about there's one on the bottom. Alright, let's see how it handles this. Interesting. Let me make it seem mountain-like ridges. Actually, yeah. I meant to iterate on the other version, but this looks interesting at least, so maybe I can work with this. We'll see the what the LM cooks up, and then we can figure it out from there. Syntax interesting. Alright, still iterating, I guess. Still has that syntax error, interesting. Maybe I should just start with like just adding the ridges, make those look like they do in the example, and then maybe start working on the movement. So let me actually try that. I'll probably start from this iteration again, unless this turns out really well. But it's not looking too likely. Interesting. Alright, I should have added some sort of button to like stop the auto iteration, but let me just go here. Okay, it's still. Let me just move quick then. Can you add mountain-like ridges to the surface of the blob? Then let's see. I want the ridges to be large. I want there to maybe be 10 covering the entire surface of the blob. Right. Hopefully. Okay, so now it just looks like a spiky ball. How do we put this? Oh, interesting. Huh, actually, if it was just cleaned up a bit more, this would probably be pretty good, actually, now that I'm looking at it. This is really good, but can you make the ridges maybe a bit smaller and make them more controlled and contained so that there isn't like what's the word for like when like artifacts, I guess, yeah. So artifacts at the edges of the ridges. I don't know. There are no artifacts at the edges of the ridges. Okay, hopefully this looks good. Yeah, now I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with the iteration numbers. I think trying to stop iteration within, like, in the middle of the process might have messed it up, but Hopefully this turns out. Okay. So it is smaller now, but let me try that again. Can you make the ridges smaller and smoother? Let me just try that and see what happens. Okay. I guess this is a bit better, but now the ridges are a bit too small. But honestly, let me just make them a bit bigger so that... Okay. Oh. Can you make the ridges a bit bigger and wider so that their edges are touching each other, but not so much that they become out of control? At their places. Large and out of control. Hopefully this gives me what I want. I could probably just go in the code, figure out how the ridges are actually being formed, and then maybe just modifying the code, but that's not the point of this tool, so I won't do that. Honestly, I don't hate this. This, obviously it's not as dynamic, but I think for the sake of the demo, I think it's already getting pretty long. Let me just fix the highlights and then I'll call it a day. So now the ridges look good. Now I just want the lighting to be better. Can you make the purple and yellow lights even closer? And can you add multiple of them rotating around the sphere so that the highlights are visible on almost every part of the blob? Closer to the blob. I'll draw each of them. Alright, let's see how it does with this. I wonder if I should tell it to diffuse the lighting more so that it spreads, but also make it more intense. Because right now these lights seem pretty small and far away. Let me think. Make the lights even closer to the blob. I want the lights to be just outside of the field of view of the screen. Let's see. Okay, now that I went back to this version, I should probably also tell it to add multiple lights again. make 5 copies of each of the 2 lights and 2 white colored lights, and make all of these white. No, let me just say each of the purple and yellow lights. Let's see how it does with this. Alright, now they're too close. Let me think. I mean, I can't even tell, like, did they just add white lights, or, now the blob is overlighted, it's too bright. Can you make the purple and yellow lights intense but also diffused so that they create large highlights on the surface of the blob without making it overly bright? Let me just, is too bright. Hopefully that fixes it. As you can kind of see that there's a lot of lights being shined on the blob, which is, I guess, nice. But they're so far away that you can easily tell that they're lights and like they aren't really like forming the highlights that we see in this blob. I don't know why it's also so overexposed, but can you even see the lights anymore? Can you make the surface of the blob darker so that the highlights are more prominent? Let me say purple and yellow. I guess you can still sort of see right here that the lights are like kind of rotating around, but let's see. Oh, okay. Okay. Definitely better now, but you can still tell that there's like individual lights, and I don't really like that. So, can you make the lights even closer to the blob? And also, can you make them larger so that you can't see the individual lights? Alright, so let me do that, and then I also want to change the color of the purple, because it's definitely should be a lot darker purple. I guess the teal is fine. Yellow, I mean yellow's yellow, that should be fine. I could probably make that a bit darker too. Actually, I might tell it to make both lights deeper shades of purple and yellow. Interesting. I don't know why I did that, but back to this iteration and go. Let me just try that again. I don't see why these instructions shouldn't work. Okay. They were definitely. Let me just go back to this again. Okay, what should I do about these? Should I just say make the lights more intense? I feel like if they're really intense, then the highlights should blend together. Can you make the lights more intense so that the highlights blend together better? Okay, like the purple and yellow. I'm just specifying here so that it doesn't just overexpose the entire scene. Okay. I mean, comparing this versus that, the lights are better actually, which is nice. I think if we just tell it to put the lights even closer, that could be good. Can you make the lights even closer to the blob? Purple and yellow. I think this is almost good. Yeah, I have no idea how they accomplished this, I'll be honest, but I'll get there eventually. Let me compare these two. You can still tell that there's individual lights, which I don't like at all. But let me just say very close to the blob. Let's see how it handles that. Hopefully it doesn't just overexpose it. Maybe I'll try to add even more lights. Let me think. I like this more, honestly. Make the lights deeper shades of purple and yellow, but make the lights more intense. Let's see how it handles that. Let me think. Yeah, closer to the blob. And make them a bit deeper and hopefully more intense. Honestly, if you didn't know that it was just a ring of lights, you probably wouldn't really be able to tell. But yeah. Mm, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I might just call it here. I mean, obviously it's not really that close. The colors are definitely off. And like the highlights aren't exactly what they wanted them to be, but I think this is a pretty good attempt.